The morning air over the Western Front was still. A pale mist drifted low over the fields of mud and wire, motionless, except for the slow shiver of smoke rising from a cratered hill. For a moment, there was silence. Only the faint creak of frozen metal and the heartbeat of men waiting for the next shell to fall. It was 1917, a world divided between trenches and terror. Men lived underground, surrounded by earth and fear. Their rifles rusted, their uniforms soaked in rain that never seemed to end. Every sound carried meaning, every vibration, every whisper through the fog. And then one morning, they heard something new. Not the steady grind of British Mark I tanks, groaning across the mud like dying beasts. Not the thunder of artillery, or the shriek of shells. This sound was deeper, cleaner, almost mechanical perfection. The soldiers peered through the periscope slits, searching the mist. And then, through the fog, they saw it, a shape that didn't belong to their century. Smooth armor, sloped and seamless. A turret that moved like it was alive. No rivets, no exposed gears, no smoke. When it fired, the ground itself seemed to recoil. A flash, a delay, then a shockwave that rolled through the trenches, flattening sandbags and deafening men from meters around. The German gunners froze. The British officers stopped shouting. Something had arrived that their minds could not place. A machine that made the war itself feel obsolete. If a modern tank had truly appeared on that front, among men who still fought with bayonets and horse-drawn guns, what would have followed? What would it mean to witness the future in the mud of 1917? The First World War was a conflict defined by endurance, not speed. Its front lines were carved into the earth, trenches stretching for hundreds of miles, filled with soldiers who fought not to advance, but simply to survive another day. It was a war of mud, steel, and exhaustion. Technology existed, but it was uneven, a strange blend of modern and medieval. Artillery could reach miles, yet communication still depended on runners, pigeons, and shouted commands through the din of battle. Machine guns ruled no man's land, cutting down entire regiments in seconds. Poison gas drifted, like fog, silent and merciless. And then came the tank, humanity's first attempt to break the stalemate. The British Mark I crawled onto the battlefield in 1916, an iron box with treads and rivets, crewed by men choking on fumes and heat. It was revolutionary, but primitive, slow, unreliable, and easily trapped in mud. Most broke down before reaching enemy lines. Yet, for those who saw one move, it was terrifying. A symbol of something new. A machine that could move through barbed wire, crush trenches, and ignore bullets. For the first time, war was beginning to shift from muscle to mechanism. Now imagine something beyond their comprehension. A 21st century main battle tank, like the M1A2 Abrams or the Leopard 2A7. A machine capable of crossing those same battlefields in minutes, not hours. Armor so strong, it could shrug off every weapon the Great War possessed. A gun that could destroy any target before it even saw its attacker. /period. The men of 1917 lived in a world barely industrialized. Electricity was rare. Radios were luxury. And yet, into that world, into that age of mud and horses, appears a weapon of digital precision. A vision of the future that no one could yet imagine. To compare a modern main battle tank with those of the First World War is to measure two different eras of thought. The tanks of 1917 were mechanical beasts, heavy, clumsy, and vulnerable to their own design. Their armor could be pierced by field guns. Their engines overheated. Their tracks snapped under the weight of mud. A single modern tank would appear to them like a god of war. Its armor, forged from composite alloys and ceramics, would laugh at the shells of the early 20th century. Even the heaviest artillery of the time, the German 77mm field gun, could not hope to penetrate its skin. Bullets would glance off like rain. Its gun, a smooth-bore 120mm cannon with computer-assisted targeting, could strike from miles away with unerring accuracy. In 1917, soldiers often fired without seeing their targets. This tank could destroy them before they ever heard it. Its engine, a turbine or diesel capable of 1,000 horsepower, would drown out every other sound on the front. To the men of the trenches, the roar would seem impossible, not like a machine, but like a living force. Where their tanks crawled at walking pace, this one could move faster than cavalry. Even communication would be alien. A single tank crew today speaks through headsets, linked by encrypted digital channels. In 1917, a crew shouted over the roar of gears. But raw power alone is not everything. Modern tanks depend on complex logistics, fuel refined to precision, ammunition forged with science decades ahead, computers needing electricity and calibration. In the mud and chaos of World War I, sustaining such a machine would be almost impossible. And yet, even a brief appearance of such power could alter the course of history. The dawn comes gray and heavy over the Somme. Mist drifts through the shattered trees. Men rise from their trenches, their breath pale against the morning air. Somewhere beyond the wire, engines begin to rumble, a sound they think they know. But this sound is different, deeper, cleaner, unbroken. Through the fog, a shape emerges, sleek, angular, and impossibly fast. Its turret moves like a predator's gaze, smooth and deliberate. The soldiers freeze. Their rifles tremble in their hands. The first shell lands half a mile away, erasing a machine gun nest in a flash of dust and fire. Seconds later, another. The explosions come without warning, precise, surgical, terrifying. Within minutes, entire sections of trench vanish beneath rolling waves of earth. German gunners scramble to respond. They swing their field guns toward the intruder. A flash of muzzle fire, and nothing. The shell glances harmlessly off the tank's armor, spinning away like a pebble. The machine doesn't even slow down. Its cannon fires once more. The gun emplacement ceases to exist. Panic ripples through the line. Men run, stumble, fall into craters. Officers shout orders that no one can hear. The ground shakes with every movement of this steel apparition. In the British command post, binoculars are raised in disbelief. No one understands what they're seeing. It doesn't fit into their world. A tank that moves like a storm, immune to the weapons of men. Within an hour, what had been a stable front collapses. Trenches once fought over for months are taken in minutes. And as the machine disappears into the haze, only silence remains. The stunned quiet of a battlefield that has seen the future. By noon, word spreads along the lines. A metal beast that no bullet could pierce. A ghost tank that moved faster than trucks. A weapon that seemed not of this world. In the dugouts and muddy shelters, men whisper about what they saw. Some think it was an armored train. Others say it was a secret British weapon, hidden by the generals. But the truth, if they had known it, would have terrified them more. For every battle fought in World War I, balance defined the struggle. Artillery against trenches, machine guns against bravery, tanks against mud. Each side built, countered, and endured. But this modern tank breaks the equation. Its armor cannot be penetrated. Its speed defies pursuit. Its gun, guided, stabilized, deadly, can shatter bunkers that once required entire batteries. Within days, the front lines unravel. 4 German strongholds fall without a fight. Commanders send orders that never reach their troops. Communications cut by unseen fire. At headquarters, strategists scramble for answers. They study captured shell fragments, twisted metal, the patterns of destruction. Nothing makes sense. It's as if physics itself has changed. And with every report, the same conclusion emerges. The war can no longer be fought. Factories can't build a countermeasure fast enough. Munitions can't evolve within weeks. Generals can't adapt to a threat they can't even define. In a matter of months, the stalemate of years breaks apart. The Western Front, once the graveyard of progress, becomes a corridor of collapse. And though the war would still end in 1918, it would end for a different reason. Not exhaustion, not negotiation, but because one machine had made the rest of the war obsolete. When silence returns to the Western Front, the fields are no longer marked by trenches. They are marked by shadows, the blackened trails of something that moved faster than history could comprehend. The war, once measured in inches of mud, collapses beneath the weight of centuries leapt too soon. And in that quiet aftermath, one truth lingers. Power, once created, cannot be undone. If a modern tank had fought in World War I, the war might have ended sooner. But it would have ended differently, not as a victory earned, but as a revelation forced. The world would have seen not courage or strategy, but helplessness, a glimpse of warfare stripped of human parity. For the soldiers who once fought face to face, it would have been bewildering. The meaning of bravery, to stand, to charge, to endure, would dissolve in the shadow of a machine that could not die. And that is the paradox of progress. Each invention designed to save lives eventually learns to take them more efficiently. History tells us that humanity builds its miracles faster than it learns to deserve them. In 1916, a modern tank would not have symbolized triumph. It would have been an omen, an early echo of a century where wars would be fought not by men, but by equations, algorithms, and distances so vast that empathy could no longer reach across them. The battlefield would no longer be a place of courage, but of calculation. And perhaps, somewhere in that silence, we would realize that the greatest danger in progress is not what it allows us to destroy, but what it quietly teaches us to forget.